Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video. And the most important component of the next expansion, Dragonflight, class design, the vehicle to which you are going to be experiencing the entirety of the expansion. The most difficult decision you need to make in terms of picking a main for the next expansion is going to be determined by these types of changes and class design iterations that we are seeing continually being updated week to week. And if you want to make sure that you're staying up to date with those changes to kind of keep yourself in line with what's looking the best fitted for you in terms of a main class moving to the next expansion, then make sure you hit the subscribe button. I am also working diligently to be a great resource in terms of news, entertainment, and education for World of Warcraft. Have many testimonials to players saying that their rating has improved or their experience is better now with World of Warcraft as a result of watching my videos, and I would appreciate your support in my long-term goal of getting to 100,000 subscribers. But without further ado, let's get started. A lot of these initial changes I have already covered, and I will have a link to them at the end of the video here. That's specifically for things like Druid, but the gist of it for Druid is that Feral Druid is going to bleed damage and away from ferocious bite damage. In PvP, this is going to open up a lot more options and synergies with different classes that previously you weren't going to be able to do, something maybe like Shadow Priest or Warlocks. So very interesting identity shift for it. Restoration Druid is going to focus a little bit more on Life Bloom. They tried to diversify the talents so that it wasn't just kind of like a cookie cutter wash lockdown all the way down. Still yet to be seen if this is going to be 100% completed, if the goal is going to be achieved to where it's not just locked down, because when I was reading through it, it still seemed pretty linear, at least for PvP specifically. PvE, I'm not 100% for sure. We have seen some changes coming in towards hunters, allowing scattershot towards all specializations, even survival, now making it for one-handed special shot. A really big change that they slipped in here that I'm surprised people aren't like up in arms about is that binding shots root effect is now going to break from damage, because in Shadowlands, when they made this change, the entire hunter world was on fire. They were not going to let this thing go through, and then they didn't. They let binding shot root effect stay the same way that it was. So I'm wondering why this is coming in again. It's kind of slipped in the middle of this like mid update series. So like maybe people won't notice, and I don't know, but it seems like this is a really big change, specifically for Hunter, especially in PvE, but also in PvP. We saw a lot of improvements in quality of life changes towards Shadow, Discipline, and Holy. Priest is probably likely the best class at the moment. I just had maybe 2 or 3 videos covering these specifically in detail if you'd want to check them out, but they are looking phenomenal. Enhancement Shaman also receiving some changes towards its class, just kind of relocating its damage, reducing its talent nodes. For Warlock, they've decided to go away with trying to remove spell lock from the Fell Hunter, and they were trying to make you encouraged to use another pet, but it's like it's just going to be another best pet somewhere else. Kind of weird to remove the mechanic from a pet for so long, I guess. But the spell lock is going to be going back to your Fell Hunter. You're not going to have to talent for that specifically. A little bit of improvements and buffs towards some demonology talents. And then Warrior. This is kind of where the big one came in for me that I not noticed, but when I logged into my Warrior on the beta, I really felt it. Like initially I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. You've got like Ventir Covenant ability with Condemn, you've got Spear of Bastion Covenant ability, and you've got like 5 different legendaries that you can combine all together on the talent tree window. It was looking really strong and powerful, but this time around things have been rearranged a bit, so it's probably not going to be as strong, and the main focus on that is down here in the notes. We've changed the pathing and location of various nodes. The Colossus Smash is located in the center of the tree to align with its importance to the arm specialization. Punishment, we've decided to remove punishment as a talent. Execute damage can make up a very large portion of arm specialization's damage, which we like and want to maintain and want players to be able to choose. However, having your target in execute range for 50% of the fight warps the original intent and identity of the ability. It also means execute will need to be largely toned down and provide less general output than we'd like when it's intended to be used when you press execute. We want it to hit hard and feel good. We want you to see big numbers and even bigger crits, and some constraints here, such as removing punishment, allows us to better deliver on that. I think it was using execute above a certain health margin, which was basically Condemn. So they decided to remove the condemn option so that execute can remain a heavy hitter, and I do hope that remains the case. I've seen a few duels going on in the beta, and it seems like damage outside of cooldowns is in a great spot at the moment. Of course, we're only level 60. A lot of talents don't work. As we progress through the beta and hopefully get a max level server with template characters that we can queue some PvP, we'll be getting some gameplay and perspective as well, because right now it's just impossible to get that. All we can do is really look through the lens of their notes and the changes coming through and try and make some predictions in terms of what's going to be going on with classes. There is a new talent that is definitely worth noting here. Wrenching Impact. Heroic Leap pulls 5 random enemies within 15 yards to you. The cooldown of Heroic Leap will be increased in future builds to compensate for this powerful effect. It's a big increase in cooldown on Heroic Leap. When I first saw that they were getting Death Grip, this was a big concern from PvE players. I've seen it in kind of like discussions with Max and Ian, they not wanting Death Knight to be the only class that has a Death Grip mechanic. Although I thought that Vengeance Demon Hunter had one as well with a sigil that was yellow and it pulls mobs together. This is very similar. You're going to leap towards a target. It's going to pull enemies into you on the Heroic Leap, adding like a secondary Death Grip mechanic. But the cooldown is so significant, and it shares a talent node with reducing the cooldown of Heroic Leap if you're a warrior player. So having that taken into consideration, you're going to lose a tremendous amount of mobility for an effect that when I tested it was pretty lackluster in PvP. So although this might like jump off the page right away for like, oh my god, what is this going to do in PvP, it didn't seem that great with how much you're going to be trading off with the cooldown increase. So definitely take that into consideration when you're looking at this. For warrior, they relocated a lot of talents. They completely, the warrior tree looks completely different when I've logged on to it, and I'm still kind of like hesitant to make a video about it because maybe it's going to change again. One thing I really like that they're doing with Fury Warrior is they've decided to do away with Siegebreaker. And I liked the auto-procced Siegebreaker from the Legendary in Shadowlands, but the actual on-use effect was just felt like a very bland copy pasted. Now I do more damage in this window, and it was just inferior to the other classes versions of that spell. So with this in mind, they're removing Siegebreaker, and it's following a node that buffs it. Historically, this ability has not been well liked by players, and it's felt like a weaker version of Colossus Smash. It can also blur the identity and playstyle of Arms and Fury a little more than we'd like, and we're removing it to allow us to put more power into Fury's core abilities. And I really like reading stuff like this, is taking damage out from cooldowns, putting it into like the base class, and I've seen this as a trend on a lot of classes, and this is really important as a shift in terms of gameplay and pacing, especially in PvP, rather than just having these giant spike windows and then going down below the average, having it stay more consistent so it feels like you're always working towards something or always building something. I think it's going to be a much better direction. I do hope that with this most recent Boomkin update, which I will be making a video about when we get the complete talents about, I'm sure a lot of people are interested in that, is that they talked about wanting to use Stellar Flare a lot, and I swear Stellar Flare is probably just as unpopular, if not more unpopular, than Siegebreaker is for Fury Warrior. It is for myself, at least. You're kind of impeding on Affliction Warlock, Shadow Priest territory when you're starting to get to this level of damage over time effects. So I'm not a big fan of how much focus I was seeing on Stellar Flare with this most recent change for Balanced Druids. And when that talent tree comes out and we've got all of the information on it, I'm going to be giving a fully detailed video on it, my thoughts on it, probably some gameplay as well to try and kind of feel out what's going on with it, because I really want Balanced Druid to be in a fun and awesome spot like a lot of these other specializations. But this is going to end up being good, I think, for Fury Warrior. With Odin's Fury coming back, like, you're going to have a different button to press that's way more fun to press than Siegebreaker anyways. We're going to see a lot of changes to PvP talents that are now going class-wide, and you're going to notice that a lot of them I don't really know how are going to be too great. Like, the biggest one that stood up to me was that Necrotic Aura is going to be available now again to all Death Knight specs, even though they just went back. This is really, like, I feel like 4 months ago they just made it Unholy only. And then Reactive Resin, which is like a rejuve talent, is available to all Druids. It's like, that's kind of meh. Kind of big changes with Burst of Cold being removed, so like Cone of Cold builds might not be as powerful for Frost specifically, and then a lot of rogue talents are now going to be available or just moved into the baseline talent tree, like Control is King for Outlaw. I'm really wondering what this is going to be like for Subtlety, because I think this is like you get extra damage when crowd control is applied by you or your ally or something along those lines. 100% on it, but could make Subtlety absolutely insane. I've seen a lot of shamans experimenting with these Thunderstorm talents that are knocking enemies and knocking them up. They look super fun to kind of check out and look at, but nothing really significant. The biggest ones were the removal of Siegebreaker, that Death Grip on Heroic Leap, which is a big deal in PvE, but again, with the increase of cooldown, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal when it comes to PvP. And then all of these major changes which I've covered and we'll have linked here on the video in a moment if you want to go into those for detail. But I just wanted to give you this quick rundown. You can see there was a couple of changes in here that were very significant that almost slipped through without, I feel like, a lot of people noticing. So I just wanted to put them in here on this video. And other than that, thank you very much for watching. Comment down below with your thoughts. What are you thinking? What are you looking at towards maining in the next expansion? Like the video, and I will catch you in the next one.